So I co-founded an organization called AMCHA Initiative, which is involved in investigating, monitoring, and trying to combat campus anti-Semitism. And what I was hoping to do is to put the issue of Title VI funding and Middle East Studies programs that receive it into a broader context, and how we have gotten involved in it. And we see it as a part of this idea of the politicization of the university, especially with respect to anti-Israel bias that Wynn was talking about, and how it really creates a hostile environment for Jewish students on those campuses. So our issue has to do with campus anti-Semitism and how that goes, and also to talk about it in context of how state and federal funds are being misused for the politicization of the campus and its effects. So in general, we divide the anti-Semitism on campus world into two parts. That comes from the students in terms of the events they sponsor, the way in which they harass and assault, intimidate Jewish students, try to shut down pro-Israel events, and promote BDS campaigns. Do people know what BDS is? Boycott, divestment, sanctions campaigns directed at Israel. Faculty, which I'm going to really focus on today, has to do with how they use the individual faculty members use their classroom or class resources to promote anti-Semitic propaganda, including BDS campaigns, as well as whole departments that sponsor and fund anti-Semitic talks, events, including ones that focus on BDS. BDS I'm focusing on in particular because it's the newest expression of anti-Semitism that we see on college campuses today, also in the world today, and everybody these days knows about it. It has been seen as, by many, including scholars and politicians, as being anti-Semitic. On the campus, we see it in two ways. From the students, we see divestment campaigns where in the student senates they vote on resolutions that usually the Students for Justice in Palestine or other pro-Palestinian groups bring forward to divest their student funds from companies that do business with Israel. The faculty side, we see them promoting the academic boycott and other boycotts, but primarily the academic boycott. The negative effects of which are that it corrupts the mission of the university, it violates academic freedom, it creates a hostile environment for many students, including Jewish students, and it misuses university resources. And this, despite the fact that 250 university presidents have condemned the academic boycott, 143 members of Congress have condemned the academic boycott as being a violation of academic freedom, antithetical to the mission of the university, and discriminatory, even anti-Semitic. So now I'm going to give you a few examples of professors who are what I call gaming the system, really exploiting the system to politicize the classroom and to spew anti-Israel and anti-Semitic propaganda. Here we have a math professor from California State University, Northridge. You can see his mathematics department homepage. Mr. Klein, Professor Klein, is an avowed anti-Israel activist outside of the classroom. So he's a founder of the U.S. campaign for the academic and cultural boycott of Israel. He started a petition, a faculty petition at Cal State University system to have the president close down the Israel Abroad program. He's supported other boycott efforts, anti-Israel boycott efforts. Okay, but that's outside the classroom. Inside the classroom or inside the university, he uses the university website. This is on his Cal State Northridge website to promote his Boycott Israel resource page that includes photos like this of dead and bloody babies, statements like Israel is the most racist state in the world at this time, Israel's use of white phosphorus furthers its agenda of ethnic cleansing. This is all on the Northridge server. He is also, again, how he gets even deeper into the university infrastructure, he's also the advisor to the Students for Justice in Palestine on the campus, okay? Another professor, Professor David Lloyd, is distinguished professor of English at UC, University of California, Riverside. He too is an anti-Israel activist, a boycott academic boycott founder, as well as other boycotts that he's promoted. A few weeks ago, end of January, he organized a lecture, one of 3 lectures that Omar Barghouti, who's really the grandfather of the academic boycott of Israel, that Omar Barghouti gave on his campus to promote the boycott of Israel. This one, if you see the bottom red, are the 8 classes for which class credit is given. In fact, this is a required lecture that students need to hear in order to get their class credit. It's a lecture that's promoting the boycott of Israel. Some of the things that he said in this talk that was actually held on 3 different UC campuses, Riverside, UCLA, and UC Davis. Barghouti accused Israeli soldiers of hunting Palestinian children, enticing them like mice, and murdering them for sport. He accused Israel and its well-oiled lobby groups of buying and paying for allegiance in Congress and controlling the media. And again, at UC Riverside, they were given course credit. Less than a month later, students on those same 3 campuses launched efforts or continued efforts, really came to an end, their efforts to divest from or promote divestment resolutions in their student senates. At Davis, at Riverside, and at UCLA. UC Riverside and UCLA just recently had their divestment votes. Thankfully, they were voted down. Okay, 3rd professor, Lisa Hickey. This is on the opposite coast in NYU. She's a professor of social and cultural analysis. She's also the president-elect of the American Studies Association. She was an organizer the main organizer of that boycott, that association's boycott, as well as other boycotts that you can see that she was involved with. Again, these are her anti-Israel bona fides. However, she brings that into the classroom, onto the campus. She organized a lecture a few weeks ago at NYU that was sponsored by her department, American Studies, and 3 other departments on campus that was all about boycotting Israel. It was all of the conference participants were anti-Israel, pro-boycott activists, even 12 or 18 of them, excuse me, that were scholars, faculty members. The conference included a lunchtime workshop on how to boycott Israel that was run by anti-Zionist community groups. And the event itself was kept secret. She asked that it not get any publicity, and she didn't allow others from the community to come in or to record. And there was a big student outrage about that. There were protests. Students were upset that the NYU administration was silent. They felt that it was an appalling gesture of intolerance and that it was going to lead to more conflict, including conflict on the campus. Students at NYU. Okay, fourth and final professor is Professor of Ethnic Studies at San Francisco State University, Rabab Abdul Hadi. You can see this is her page on academia.edu. She has a logo that says that's calling for the 3rd Palestinian Intifada. She herself is a Palestinian woman. She, like the others, is an anti-Israel activist, one of the founders of the academic boycott of Israel. She signed many other boycott petitions. She's also spoken, importantly, she's spoken at student activist events, Students for Justice in Palestine, condoning armed resistance and glorifying terrorists. She has led several delegations of boycott activists to quote-unquote Palestine in order to meet with Palestinian activists. And she has met with Palestinian terrorists on those trips, including the last trip, which she talked about in an event that she put together at San Francisco State University, sponsored by and put on by the College of Ethnic Studies, at which she spoke about the delegation that she led to the West Bank and 1948 Palestine is what she calls it, or 1948 areas of Palestine, by which she means Israel, in order to promote, specifically the event is in order to promote or in support of the academic and cultural boycott of Israel. This delegation that they met with, the first person they met with was Leila Khaled, a known PFLP terrorist, and another Islamic cleric who had served 2 years in Israeli prison for aiding and abetting Hamas, and who 2 days after this event, a few weeks ago, was actually re-imprisoned in Israeli prison for incitement to violence and calls for a third intifada. They had met with him in January on this delegation. Abdul Hadi again, another way that this gets onto the campus square, into the classroom, is she is the faculty advisor to the General Union of Palestine Students, called GUPS. She sponsored, her department sponsored and defended an event last November where the students from this group, the GUPS students, had stencils promoting Layla Khaled and Art of Resistance, and they had a stencil that read, "My heroes have always killed colonizers," by which it was clear that they meant Israeli Jews. The president of the GUPS group, the fellow who's holding the knife, he was actually recently expelled because of some information that we brought forward. Many social media postings filled with violence, holding knives and talking about guns and talking about killing Israeli soldiers and killing supporters of Israeli soldiers. And she was very close to this individual as well.
Where was he expelled from?
He was expelled from San Francisco State University.
Out of the United States?
Not sure. Not sure. Okay, now I want to bring it back to our topic, but again, my point is to show that this is sort of a case in point. These Middle East Studies programs and campus anti-Semitism. So there is a lot of anti-Semitic or anti-Israel, some of which is anti-Semitic activity of faculty in these Title VI funded programs. Many faculty, and this is again outside. This is outside of the university. Many faculty have engaged in anti-Israel activism. At least, for example, at least 9 faculty affiliated with the Title VI funded Middle East Institute at Columbia University, including its director, have endorsed the academic boycott of Israel. But then it comes down onto the university, into the classroom, because several Title VI funded programs routinely sponsor, as Wynn was saying, anti-Israel classes, lectures, or conferences with anti-Semitic content. For example, the recent NYU boycott conference that I just mentioned was co-sponsored by the Title VI funded Kevorkian Center for Near Eastern Studies. And some faculty in Title VI funded programs engage in efforts to undermine programs that are related to Israel. So, for example, several faculty in the Title VI funded Center for Near Eastern Studies at UCLA, including 3 of its directors, endorsed a petition to rescind, to shut down the UC Israel Abroad program. Okay, these are directors, and many members of that program are trying to shut down the Israel program for students to study in Israel. I just list here some of the possible state and federal laws that are being violated by, not just by the Middle East Studies Department, but all of the faculty who are using their classrooms and politicizing the campus in order to promote their own political agendas. So state laws that have to do with prohibiting the misuse of state resources, the name of the university for state universities, and state laws such as the New York human rights law that has to do with prohibiting boycotts by state institutions. And then the federal laws, we have Title VI, the expert sitting right next to me, about the 1964 Civil Rights Act, a different Title VI Act that has to do with anti-discrimination. So whatever events, things that have to do with discrimination against Jewish students in particular are subject to this law. And then, of course, the law that we're talking about today, the Title VI of the Higher Education Act, because most of these only relating to programs that receive Title VI funding, but to the ones that do, anti-Israel bias and bias in general, certainly anti-Semitism as evidence of bias, it would be in violation of this, and then some of the federal boycott laws. And then finally, I just want to point out that our organization in a few weeks will be releasing a study that we've done looking at a 3-year period of a university Middle Eastern Studies program at a very well-known university, and how we looked very carefully at the anti-Israel bias and significant anti-Semitic activity in the program's outreach programs, which of course is congressionally funded. And we looked specifically for motivations and found many of the funding requirements in Title VI. And if you'd like to receive a copy of that report when it is available, There's a sign-up sheet that I think is outside the room, or you can email me at Tammi at the name of my organization, AMCHAinitiative.org, and I'd be happy to send it to you. Probably in a few weeks we will be making that public. Thank you very much.